It was supposed to be just a joke, a bet. The kind of mindless challenge arrogant young men make when they believe they can buy anything, even people. The kind of bet that exists in the haze of expensive whiskey, designer suits, and laughter that fills a country club bar. A group of wealthy men sat around a table, their smugness dripping off them like expensive cologne, their eyes gleaming with the confidence that came with inherited money. They had everything, power, wealth, status, everything but empathy. Among them sat Daniel Crawford, a 32-year-old millionaire several times over. His smile was a tool, perfected over the years, a weapon that charmed, deceived, and controlled. He had it all: the cars, the house, the clothes, and the respect of men who didn't question him because of the money he brought to the table. But it was in that moment, in the midst of a few too many drinks, that someone dared him to do something he couldn't ignore. "I dare you," a friend called out with a devilish grin, "to marry her. 6 months. Keep a straight face. Prove you can stomach it. Bet you can't." The woman they were talking about was no one of consequence to Daniel. Lila, a quiet, plus-sized waitress, worked in the less glamorous back kitchen of the club. She wasn't the type to catch the eye of men like them, except for their mocking glances, of course. Poor, invisible, and often ridiculed for her size, Lila was a person they hardly ever noticed. But fueled by arrogance and intoxication, Daniel smirked and said, "You're on." And so a wager was set, one that would end up changing everything in ways no one in that room could have imagined. At first, Daniel knew nothing about Lila. She lived in a small, run-down apartment above a laundromat in a rough part of town. Her clothes were simple, her shoes worn from use. But her eyes, those eyes, carried a quiet light, a kind of warmth that shone through despite her circumstances. It was the kind of light that comes from surviving life's most difficult storms. When Daniel first approached her, she didn't believe it. Why would someone like him even glance at her? Men like Daniel didn't notice women like Lila, but Daniel was charming when he wanted to be, and after persistent invitations, she agreed to meet him for coffee. Over the next few weeks, Daniel played his part. He listened just enough, smiled at the right times, and played the role of the attentive suitor. But all the while, the bet simmered in the back of his mind, just a game to win. Lila, however, had something different in her. She shared stories with him that weren't about herself, but about the people she cared for. She told him about the years spent raising her younger siblings after their mother passed, the countless nights she spent working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. She spoke of the volunteer work she did at the local shelter on weekends because she truly believed no one should ever feel forgotten. There was no bitterness in her voice, only a quiet strength, and Daniel felt something in him stir. He told himself it was just a passing fascination, a novelty that would soon wear off. But as time passed, his feelings began to change. One evening, as they sat on her worn couch after a late dinner, Daniel watched her as she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. For the first time, it wasn't the bet he thought about. It was her, the woman sitting beside him with her heart so full, so genuine. She didn't care about his money, his status, or his world. She saw him, not for the riches he possessed, but for who he was. But the bet still lingered, a heavy weight on his chest. Every smile she gave, every laugh they shared, felt like a lie because he knew the truth. He was deceiving her, and the guilt gnawed at him. The idea of telling her the truth terrified him. What if she hated him? What if she walked away, disgusted by the man he'd become? It was a rainy Thursday when Daniel offered to drive her home after her shift. Her apartment building had lost power, and in the dim hallway light, he noticed a hand-drawn calendar pinned to the wall. It wasn't for her. It was for the elderly neighbors who lived in the building, reminders for food pantry pickups, birthdays, anniversaries, and simple notes of care. She had made it for everyone. No one had asked her to. No one was paying her for it. She just cared. Daniel stood there, stunned. It wasn't the first time he'd seen her kindness, but seeing it in this quiet, hidden corner of her world, it made something in him shift. He couldn't sleep that night. His thoughts were consumed with her generosity, the way she gave without asking for anything in return. He had never known a person like her. As the weeks passed, Daniel found himself falling deeper into her world. He started missing his usual gatherings with his friends. He stopped talking about her to them. It wasn't about the bet anymore. It was about her. Then came the day he proposed. He had it all planned out, the perfect proposal to end the bet, the grand finale, a diamond ring, a candlelit dinner, a perfect moment for him to send a picture to his friends to prove that he had won. But when he saw Lila walking toward him in a simple blue dress, with that shy, gentle smile that melted his heart, something inside him snapped. This wasn't a game anymore. He loved her, and it terrified him. They married in a small church, surrounded by the few family members and friends who truly loved Lila. Daniel's friends sat in the back pews, sneering, waiting for the moment when the joke would be complete. But Daniel couldn't hear them. All he could hear was Lila's voice, her vows to stand by him no matter what. And he knew in that moment he had already won, because he loved her. The truth came out 2 months later. One of his so-called friends, drunk at a charity gala, let it slip to a reporter that Daniel's marriage had started as a bet. The media exploded. Headlines painted Daniel as a heartless millionaire who had humiliated his own wife. Paparazzi camped outside their home. Strangers hurled insults online. But Lila didn't scream. She didn't break down. She packed a single bag and walked out without a word. Daniel found her again at the community shelter, scrubbing floors like she had before they met. Her eyes, once open and trusting, were now guarded. He begged her to understand that the bet was over, that he truly loved her. But Lila only said, "Love built on lies isn't love at all." For weeks, Daniel tried everything. He volunteered at the shelter. He donated to the community. He even moved out of his penthouse and into her old neighborhood, helping people she cared about. But nothing worked. It wasn't until he quietly paid for a surgery that saved Mrs. Grant's eyesight without telling anyone that Lila began to believe him again. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't a public apology. It was the quiet, consistent kindness that mirrored her own. Slowly, she let him back into her life, and over time, into her heart. Years later, when they renewed their vows in that same small church, Daniel whispered to her, "The bet was the worst decision of my life, but loving you was the best." And in that moment, everyone knew they had beaten the odds.